I've always loved movies. Recently, I had the opportunity to see an advertisement for a limited release thriller called Silent Peace. The title alone was intriguing, and when I watched the advertisement, I was not disappointed. The film featured a serial killer with a twisted sense of morality, who chose his victims by according to what they took or offered to society, according to its own criteria. And the way he killed them reflected the way they hurt others around them. I had only seen 2 different advertisements for this film, and both were almost similar, only the narration and the snippets shown changed slightly. However, one evening when I was watching TV, I saw a commercial for Silent Peace that I had never seen before, which I found absolutely chilling. It started with the title written in white on a black background, which remained displayed for about 5 seconds. It is then passed on a second similar screen, and the text this time said, "I'm coming," right in the middle of the screen. The message was accompanied by several discreet sobs. Looking closer at the screen, I could see about 6 dark figures in the background. There was no excerpt in this advertisement, nor the usual message, "coming soon." I found it very disturbing, but it was probably a marketing technique. Successful, I must admit. I watched some cartoons to calm down and then went to bed. The next day, at lunch break, I went to eat with my colleague and friend, Sarah. We talked about everything and nothing, and one thing led to another, and I ended up telling her about the weird commercial I had seen the night before. I was shocked to learn that she was also watching the same channel at the same time. But the trailer she had seen was not at all the one I had. It was the usual one that played at the beginning. I protested and described in detail what I had seen in mine, but she had no idea what I was talking about. This, of course, disturbed me a great deal, but finding no explanation, I ended up shrugging my shoulders, trying not to think about it anymore. After a few days, I had almost completely forgotten what happened, and I went back to my little TV routine in the evening. But obviously, it didn't take long for me to see her again. It was almost the same as last time, only this time everything seemed more intense. The wails and sobs were louder, and the silhouettes in the background much more visible. My heart raced. I took my phone and I called Sarah, asking if she saw what I was seeing. But she replied in the negative and quickly hung up, telling me she was too busy with her children to argue. I didn't protest, still in shock at this strange trailer that I seemed to be the only one seeing. My thoughts swirled in my head, and I began to doubt what I was seeing and hearing. Before sinking further into panic, I got up and went to prepare something to eat. I watched some cartoons again, which didn't help much this time, and then went to bed. I expected to have to turn around before falling asleep, but strangely, I very quickly fell unconscious. In the middle of the night, I suddenly woke up. I could have sworn I heard something strange, but I couldn't put my finger on it. The Silent Peace ad came to mind almost immediately, and the fear that accompanied it overwhelmed me. I was frozen in bed, my heart pounding, and I tried to locate the noise. Even a small voice in the back of my mind told me it was probably my imagination. It sounded like intense crying and wailing, exactly the same I had heard on TV. The fear that gripped my chest turned to panic, and I pulled the sheet over my head in a vain attempt to drown out the noises, but they only got worse. The despair of these beings invaded my mind, deafened me. As I tried with all my might to block these horrible voices, I saw a shadow cross my sheet. But I was too terrified to pull it out and check if it was just a bird or something passing by my window, or something far more sinister lurking in my bedroom. I felt like a child, terrified of the monster in her closet or under her bed. and that feeling suddenly intensified when I felt something icy touch my toes under the sheet. Trembling in terror, tears running down my cheeks, I got into the fetus position and prayed with all my might. But my prayers were useless because a few moments later, my drape was violently ripped off, and I could see what was lurking in my room. A tall, black figure stood beside my bed. There were no ears, no nose, no eyes on his head. His only feature was a huge mouth stretched into a sinister smile. The urge to scream flooded my lungs, but no sound escaped my trembling mouth. And the longer my terror grew, the wider the creature's smile grew. It seemed to feed on my endless fear, until it had enough and stabbed me in the heart with its sharp claw. I managed to catch one last glimpse of the thing, fully satisfied and sated, before I fell into darkness. When I woke up, I was on the floor. I didn't know how much time had passed, but it was still very dark outside. Remembering abruptly from what had happened, I grabbed my chest, where the creature had attacked me. I had no blood or wounds. Normally, I would have heaved a huge sigh of relief, realizing it was just a nightmare, and I just rolled out of bed. But all I could feel was fear and intense sadness. The same kind of sadness you feel when you discover that a loved one has passed away. I scrambled to my feet and stumbled to the light switch, but no matter how much I groped in the dark, I couldn't find it. The only light in the room was from my window. Turning to inspect it, I jumped violently. It was much taller and seemed abnormal. As I approached to examine it, I noticed what looked like letters written on the glass. It looked like the reflection of a message on a mirror. I concentrated on reading it. I'm coming. My legs gave way beneath me, and an indescribable terror came over me when I realized what had happened. As my eyes adjusted in the dark, I noticed the 6 figures surrounding me, crying hysterically. The sadness I felt since I came to grew and grew and grew, until I, too, started crying uncontrollably. The light emanating from the window was the only solace in this awful place, so I dragged myself over so I could look outside. And the only thing I could see was my friend Sarah, sitting on the couch, watching us.
Good evening, everyone. Giggles the Croupier here. Just wanted to thank all of my incredible patrons for supporting me. Tam B, Jen Miser, Skymara Ravenswood, Melissa Perez, Bernard Jackson, Leaf Ninja, Roy Larimer, Mr. Creepypasta, Neon Scoundrel, and William Delphin. I'm still figuring out rewards for Patreon, but if you would still like to support, click the link in the description and I will hopefully have something for you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.